Here we go. All right, that was pretty cool. I love Maggio's stuff. I love it, especially when he does that, and I love when he does it when we have some of that's coming in for the QBC. He's one of the most talented painters I know, and he doesn't get enough push, so I always try to push him. Let me bring in Matt Cerrone right now. Hey, Matt.
What's going on, Keith? How's my audio?
Your audio is great. So,
Okay,
Matt's been great. He's always supported the QBC, supported the bloggers back in the day. He has a whole bunch of his own stuff going on, and the fact that he was able to make time for us today is awesome. Let me bring in one of my favorite former Mets. He's actually somebody I don't mind seeing in a black jersey. He's he was always great. Just watching him play, no matter what position he was playing in for the night. Here he is, Super Joe McEwing.
How we doing, guys?
Thank you.
How are you? Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming on for us, and we really appreciate it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to jump off and leave you guys to have the panel. And
painting, by the way.
That's awesome. If you want, I could probably try to get Joe to Dave to send it to you if you want.
They did an outstanding job. That'd be great.
Here, hold on. Let me just put Dave in really quick.
Oh, all right, Dave. Sure.
That's an outstanding job. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, I'll definitely send it your way. That's awesome.
That was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's very kind.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Again, thank you so much. Pulling Dave out. I'm going to jump out now and leave you and Matt to talk. And I'm going to pop in comments every now and then from the fans.
Okay.
All right. And I'll see you guys at the end.
Thanks,
you. Keith. What's up, Joe? How are you? Good to see you.
How are you?
Good. We were trying to figure out, we talked yesterday, we were trying to figure out if we had ever met before in previous seasons. And I got to think at some point we did, but who knows? But it's good to see you again today.
Great seeing you as well.
So I guess to start off, the thing that whenever I think about you, from a Mets perspective and from a Mets fan myself, I think about how iconic you are. And I don't know that you even probably think about it that way among Mets fans, but
it's very humbling.
The reason I say it that way is because we always talk about a Joe McEwing-like player. And we say it all the time. Oh, they really need, a McEwing type guy. And I'm wondering if you realize that, or if you see yourself that way, or do you, obviously stats are one thing, but there's legacy and there's impact and influence and all that kind of stuff. And do you realize that you have that role among Mets fans?
First of all, it's very humbling to be thought of that way. I never really thought about it. My goal was to go out every day and be ready, be prepared to help the ball club win, and just go about my business the right way, my preparation, my work, being a good teammate, and helping any way we possibly could to win a game that day. And I only knew one way to go about it, and that was to go out there and give it everything you had for 27 outs. And at the end of the day, win or lose, you'd like to be on the winning side of it. But you knew at the end of the day, you could look yourself in the mirror and say, I was prepared. And if I didn't get the job done, which I didn't a lot of times, I knew I was prepared and that I could let it go faster and be ready to focus on the next day.
I wasn't going to ask you about any of these things, but I see all these jerseys in the back, specifically George Brett, who I loved watching. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering what, these guys mean to you and what it meant to you. I'm assuming this is your collection and how it came about.
It is. And every single one of them means something different to me. Each one has its own story. And the one behind me, the Pete Rose one, it's I grew up watching in Philly. And that's how I wanted to go about playing the game. He left it all out there on the field every single day and played the game hard and gave it everything. He was prepared, and so I always enjoyed as a kid watching him play, and that's who I went to be in the backyard 4 or 5 years old. Playing wiffle ball with my friends. Your imagery of being a Pete Rose, a Larry Boa, Manny Trio, great Maddox, Lazinski. I was a huge Phillies fan, so the imagery and seeing that all come together in your own sense. That's who I tried to pattern my game off of.
So at some point you were, a little leaguer, you high school player, you get to the big leagues. Who are you in awe of when you met them for the first time?
A lot of different individuals, because I was a huge fan of the game, and I was a fan of players across. I mean, I can name almost every. When I was a kid, you can name every lineup, every guy on every team. It didn't matter if it was number 1 or number 25. You can name each individual because you're such a fan of the game, and you love the game, and each one had their own way of going about it and the way you appreciated them. So, you know, when I met Willie McGee for the first time, when I met Eric Davis for the first time, when I met McGuire for the first time, I'm sitting here, I'm in awe, and I'm like, okay, I'm sitting in the same locker room as them, and I was confident in my ability. I didn't really understand how great they were until later in my career,
Mm-hmm.
because I viewed myself, even though it's not true, on the same level as them. And that's the confidence I needed to compete and to not just get to the big leagues, but to be able to stay in the big leagues, to feel as if I could compete against these guys and I was good as them every day.
That confidence is something that always I hear whenever I talk to guys that play the game or play the game. I can't remember who I do. A conversation with Ron Darling years ago talking to me about golf and how the marked difference between playing golf with other professional athletes, obviously in his case baseball players, versus regular people, is that all the regular people were afraid. They didn't think they could make the shot. They're always worried about what they couldn't do. And the professional athletes all looked at it as, I can do this. There was confidence to it. And if they didn't, they just worked harder to figure it out. But he always noticed that difference. And I'm wondering, what you make of that, because I've heard that in other places.
I think that's 99% of the battle.
Yeah.
Is that confidence? I use it. I always used it as motivation. Anyone that told me I couldn't do something, I used it as motivation, and that I'm going to prove you wrong, type of mindset. And going through the minor leagues in every city, you're not gonna be able to play in AA. You're not gonna be able to play in AAA. You're not gonna be able to play in the big leagues. Okay, you got to the big leagues, you're not gonna be able to stay. And I tried to use it as motivation to continue to prove people wrong, and didn't allow any exterior distractions coming in to get it was like a horse with blinders. You don't want to see left or right. You want to see what's in front of you, and what your job is, what your task is, to be able to have your own career, but also try to be the best teammate you possibly can, and help a team win.
We'll talk a little bit about David Wright in a minute. But I'm wondering, in your case, when you got to the big leagues, who maybe took you under their wing or showed you, the way of the game and, all that kind of stuff, who was sort of a mentor, so to speak?
There were a couple individuals that had a huge impact on my career. And getting there and having a mindset. Jeff Manto, who I grew up with in Bristol, he was a little older than I. But we worked out every winter, and he was already in the big leagues at the time. He was back and forth between AAA and AA, and we'd hit every day. We talk, and just asking questions about what the mindset of a big leaguer, how to go about it, work ethic. And then when I got to the big leagues, John Mabry, he went to Westchester. I'm from Bucks County, so we knew a lot of the same people. So when we were in the minor leagues, he was a year or two ahead of me, so he progressed quicker than I did. So then when I got to the big leagues, he told them to give me number 48 because he was number 47.
Right.
So I would locker next to him on the road, and then they gave me a locker next to him at home, and he showed me the way to go about it, how to be a big leaguer. You know, back then you weren't allowed in the training room till you had like 3 years, and you know, just the little things that you don't recognize and understand about you always respected your veterans and did anything they asked. So he took care of me, and that's the reason why I still wear 47 to this day. Because the year after he got traded to Seattle, and I got to spring training, I had number 47. I'm like, what is going on? And he said, "Give it to Joe. I don't want anybody else to have it." So that's why I always wear 47.
So you end up with the Mets. You know, coming from the Cardinals, what was your impression of, or what's the perception of New York, playing in New York prior, and then what do you see once you get there and you know have that experience in New York City?
First of all, growing up in Philly prepared me for everything that I was going to encounter going to New York. But it was always, New York is, for me, it's the Mecca. It was the Mecca of sports. You know, you always wanted to compete in that environment. You wanted to compete against the best, and you wanted to compete in that arena. And you know, when I got traded in the beginning, I didn't understand. You know, the Cardinals. I signed in '92. I got traded in 2000. So that was my family. That's the only thing I ever knew was the Cardinals. And
Cardinal way.
yeah, and you know, I when I got traded, it was a couple of days before we were leaving for Japan to open the season in 2000. So, you know, so everything just piled up, you know, going to a new team that I had no idea, you know, you understood the business side of the game at that point, you know, and when I got traded over, everything, you know, you had to pack up your apartment, and by the way, 5 days later, you're heading on a plane to Japan to open a season. And when we got to Japan, we played 2 exhibition games, and I was told that I wasn't going to be on the opening day roster when we went, and they were trying to make room, but could not at that moment. So, you know, so going from spending the whole year in the big leagues and a month in '98, and then going back to AAA while I was in Japan, you know, I still didn't understand why. And everything happens for a reason. It was the best thing, one of the best things that ever happened to me.
What was your impression of Bobby Valentine and just the team in general coming off of what they did in '99? There was momentum. You know, could you feel that? And what did you make of him? He's
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and the greatest thing about it, they welcomed me with open arms. You know, everyone did, from Bobby to Robin, who I'm still extremely tight with now. Mike, Todd, you know, everyone welcomed me with open arms, and you know, I couldn't be thankful enough for the way I was received, and you know, even when I was sent down, you know, the discussions that were had, like, listen, don't put your head down, go down there, take care of business. You'll be back, and you'll be a part of this. You'll be part of a championship ball club, and that was the most wonderful thing about that team. It was so selfless. You know, everyone pulled for each other. We had an amazing group of quality veterans, and then young guys sprinkled in that helped us get to the point where we needed to be. And it was a memorable season.
It's interesting that they've had world championship teams that get to the World Series, great seasons and whatnot. But that '99, 2000 era, for me, maybe it was just the age that I was at, but to me, those are my favorite teams. I love them. And like you mentioned, the selflessness and the hustle to it. Guys that you never would have expected to be in positions and do what they did. It was really a hell of a run.
You know, you think about that outfield.
all the time. We talk about
and in today's game, that would be unheard of.
that.
When you had Benny, in left, Jay Payton in center, and Jay Bell in right. And I think combined, because Derek Bell.
Yeah. No.
Okay, cut back in. Derek Bell, about halfway through the season, got hurt. And so we missed his offensive output. And, I think that team had 45 home runs from the whole outfield at that point.
That's amazing.
And one guy in the outfield has that now. So to think about how fortunate we were and how many things have to go right from February, March till the end of October, to put everybody in that position. And Timo Perez was a huge boost coming up in August, and almost carried us for a month. And so it was an amazing club that had amazing chemistry and the culture that you try to create on a winning atmosphere now.
It speaks to kind of what I said at the beginning, how you're remembered, how the team is remembered. They didn't win a World Series and you got there, but it's remembered in a way that is important because there's memories attached to it. So many little ups and downs and moments during that season when you thought it's over. There's firings and replacements. I mean, just the amount of stuff that happened during the course of that season reminds me of 15 in that way. Is special. And is that for you the season you remember the most when you look back on your career?
Yes, absolutely. Because it's like I just spoke about the culture.
Right.
No matter what was going on the outside, they didn't allow the distractions to come in.
How did that happen?
Because we had an amazing group of veterans, and Robin and Johnny and Outlighter and Hampton, and they didn't allow that to come in. When you got to the clubhouse, we expected to win every day, and if not, you knew it was going to be a fight to the end. And if not, if we didn't get a W that day, the next day, you know what? Every guy was prepared to win that day. It didn't happen. This game is extremely hard. The next day, we're going to go out and compete and put ourselves in a good position to win that day as well.
Talk to me about Shea Stadium. What was it like playing there?
Amazing. I mean, so many fond memories. I love the old school stadiums. The atmosphere of it, the smell of it, the vibrance of the old school, that the history of so many years filtered into one. And just being in the dugout and feeling it shake, from
right in the stands, man.
And yes, it's a special feeling, and that doesn't, you can't duplicate that feeling. And I'm getting goosebumps now because you can't, and that's why I try to be present and be in the moment every day, because you can't get those memories back. And then that's the things I remember.
See, and so this is interesting to me because
the passion of Mets fans, the passion of their club, the passion they have for each individual player. It's a special feeling.
This is interesting to me because you talk about that literally in the exact same almost words that David Wright has talked to me when I've interviewed him about different moments, specifically the World Series for him in 2015, taking the field, this being mindful of everything, and it's very similar. And so he speaks of you, obviously like a mentor. When he first came up, he rented I think it was the apartment next door. He had said, when he first came in and you were that guy for him, I mean, what did you make of this young kid coming up? What's it like to sort of it happened for you, like you mentioned earlier in your career. What was that? What did that mean to you?
Well, that's the thing about that's what's amazing about this game. It's the friendships, the memories that are created and that are still happening and still ongoing. And the first interaction I had with David was when he signed. You know, they
Right.
they brought him to New York and had the press conference, showed him around the stadium, and we're in the cage working. And they came in and they're like, do you mind if David comes in and gets some flips? I'm like, are you serious? I mean, we're gonna let an 18-year-old kid come in and take flips as we're trying to work and prepare for a game? I was obviously kidding, and I was joking around, and I introduced myself, and the same way that interaction when I introduced myself to him and he introduced himself back is the same way I see him now. Nothing has changed. He's the same individual. He's an extremely amazing person. But when he got in the cage, he started hitting. I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, that's a different sound.
Even at that age.
And you know that. You hear the sound. You're like, wait a minute, that's different.
Mm-hmm.
That's a special kid. And and we stayed in touch as he was going through the minor leagues, and we go to dinner in spring training because we have mutual friends. And then when he got to the big leagues, it was my turn to take care of what somebody else did for me. It was my turn to do it for someone else. And, extremely thankful for it. He was like the brother I never had. And, every night it was dinner at our house. And then, going to the stadium, taking him out to dinner on the road and those things, just trying to guide him the right way, which he probably didn't need because he's that amazing. But just the things that were brought on to me, I was trying to give back to him. And
right, of course. It's interesting. That's an interest. I would love to know that lineage, because it probably goes a long way.
Fraternity. It's fraternity. It's like a fraternity. It's a gift that keeps on giving, and that's what's so special about this game.
So you take a certain, I mean, this probably is an obvious yes, but do you take a certain level of pride when you watch as his career goes on, and then the way it ended too? What are you feeling when you watch him now and he's flourishing? And is there a certain sense of probably investment even to an extent, because you put time into
you don't do it for that. You do it for him. And for the game.
Proud.
Oh, extremely proud.
Yeah.
That would be the first thing I check in the morning after after our game. How David do. And because you cared. You cared about his success, his failures, and you could tell if you were getting texts in return or if you weren't. How he was going, and but in a positive way, because you knew he had so much pride in what he does every day, the way he prepares his preparation. He don't want to let anybody down, and he's as amazing as he was as a player. He's a better person, and it was so nice to see his career play out. And I'm not extremely sorry. I'm sorry that the injuries didn't allow it to fulfill what it could possibly be, which was on pace for a Hall of Fame career, as my thoughts. But his willingness, I know how much he was hurting. His willingness to fight and prepare for a couple of years just to come back and play one game, just justifies the player he was and the individual he was, and how much he cared about the city of New York and Mets fans alike. And that's what he did it for. He didn't do it for himself. he did it for Met fans, and that's it justifies, you know, everything he is.
But before we get to the question, just when I think about David and I think about that last game, it was honestly one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. And it wasn't about anything other than thank you. I mean, the adulation and the love and the appreciation that you felt in the stands, and not even from the stands. I mean, security guards and people. I mean, just everybody in the ballpark. I can't remember ever seeing all eyes on one person with that level of appreciation. It was really, really, really. It was touching even for me. Like I felt like, wow. I mean, it would be awesome. Think about what he's given and what he's getting back is really an amazing thing, just from a human perspective.
And that was on both ends. You know, it was appreciation on both ends. You know, from fans and himself alike, giving back to what, you know, they gave him, the energy they gave him every night he played, and you know, that doesn't happen too much anymore. You know, one individual playing their whole career in one city, and I know he's very thankful for that.
The similarities between him and Mattingly sometimes are pretty amazing. Just in terms of how the city viewed them, the fan base, how the career ended, where it could have gone. I mean,
That's a great point.
And I know he's talked to him about it when he was going through all that.
Really, I know that. That's a great point.
Yeah. So, question from Nancy and MJ, who are, by the way, are two terrific fans. I've met them.
Hi, Nancy. Hi, MJ.
They want to know if being a mentor and a friend to an upcoming player, do you think that's something that happens today?
It does. It does happen today, and you know, and in the arena we're in now, it's we have to teach we have to let them know to give back, you know, and it's happening today. You know, players are taking guys under the wing and giving back, you know, the same way that was passed along to them.
What do you make of the game today? Because you've been a minor league player or a major league player, you've been where you are right now with the White Sox. Like, you've seen the evolution of the game, the players. It's very different from when you played versus, say, the 80s and so on. So, I mean, what do you like about the way the game is right now? What would you love to see change?
Okay. No, it's interesting because everyone's saying the game is still the game.
Mm-hmm. Always will, right.
You know, and
right.
The main thing is going out and competing and winning. Okay. Mm-hmm. And nowadays everybody's talking about the numbers, the on base. It's been talked about for 100 years. It's just different letters. It's different variables to it, and how to. And believe me, I love numbers. Take them and evaluate every situation, any possible way we can put an individual in a better position to be successful. Absolutely, absolutely. But a lot of things that are going on today were happening years ago. 100 years ago, you know, there was guys with high on base and guys that had high slug but struck out a lot. Mm-hmm. You know, think about Rob Deere. You know, so it's been going on for extremely long time, and I think as an industry, we're just tweaking it, making it better. Putting different letters on it and different ways to combat it. You know, think about when I was coming up, a lot of pitchers were four seamers, mm-hmm. curveballs, changeups. Okay. And then guys started making adjustments, and that's when the home run era came in. Okay. Then what did everybody start going to? Sinkers, cutters, sliders, splits. Right. How do you combat that? Start talking about launch angle. Mm-hmm. Right? You start talking about launch angle and you know, dissecting the swing and making it how it works best against the sinker, against the slider on a lower plane, and then what's the industry do pitching wise again? Start going back to four seamers, high four seamers, curveballs, and changeups. So I think the best way to try to stay ahead of the curve, constantly staying ahead of the curve, making the adjustments quicker than the other guy, the other team, the other individual. So I think it's a constant cat and mouse game that's what makes this game so beautiful, and if you can't break down video and watch, okay, this is what an individual is trying to do to me on the mound, four seam, and I won't make the adjustment, then shame on me.
Right.
So at some point you gotta swallow your pride. Okay, I'm not going to keep walking back to the dugout 0 for 4 every night without making an adjustment and waiting for him to come in my zone. No, I'm going to have to make an adjustment, from pitch to pitch and understand how to combat it all. So, and I think that's where the game is getting back to. You're having so many athletic players now where, how many times you see nowadays where you see a 0-2, 1-2 fastball neck high getting hit opposite field because they know what guys are doing and they're not afraid to make the adjustment. So I think that's where, the cat and mouse and being athletic and understanding the situation that's presented in front of you of what the individual is trying to do on the mound to get you out. So I don't. The game is the game for me, and you just try to stay ahead of it and put yourself, your club, and the individual in the best position to be successful.
Right. So, do you think a team like you had in 2000, specifically the outfield, do you think a team could get to the World Series today with an outfield like that?
Absolutely. With the pitching and defense that we had, absolutely.
Interesting. Because we talked yesterday about, defense up the middle and how important that is. So we'll talk about the current Mets team. I feel like, and I love Brandon Nimmo, but I feel like they need like a true blue glove first center fielder just because of the way, they're structured up the middle. And I think it helps the pitching staff. Is that something, and it's no disrespect to Nimmo because I love him and I want him on the team and I think he's a special player, especially in New York. But I do feel like they need that glove. How important do you think that is to a team's success, specifically this Mets team?
For me, defense is extremely important. The less outs you give away, the better position you're going to be in to win a ball game. And I don't know Nimmo very well. I haven't seen him play that much. From what I heard, he's an extremely hard worker and so I believe that an athlete like that is able to make adjustments and become the probably elite outfielder that he wants to be. If you're not strong in that area, you're strong in the surrounding areas. And so, and a way to combat that is with a rotation that has a lot of strikeout guys when less balls are put in play. You think about, you have 27 outs every night, and basically an average club strikes out 10, 11 times a night. So how do you make those other 16 outs productive? Right. So I think it depends on the makeup of your ball club as well.
You've played every position but pitcher. This is a weird question, but if you were drafting a team, which is the one you start with?
The one I start with?
Yeah. Like, what's the, who are you, of all of them, what's the one that you want that you're going to select first? Yeah.
A shortstop.
Oh, okay.
A shortstop.
Why?
Because I believe that individual is a captain of an infield, captain of everything. and he's got to envision and see everything on the field and what every guy's doing, especially in today's game with all the shifting and communication that needs to go on. I think he is your quarterback. He's your leader, and then second would be a catcher that can handle a staff, and by the way, you got a real good one.
I'm not very familiar with McCann. I gotta say, I've been following things very recently. I kind of tuned out for a bit when I saw the Mets sign McCann. I thought, wait a minute, Brian McCann's still playing baseball. So
you got to.
But so tell me a little bit about him, because you see,
he's a leader in the clubhouse. Amazing in-game adjuster. You know, if you know, I see it like a lot of times in today's game, it's like the first quarter of an NFL game where everyth's scripted, you know, and what he does extremely well, he's so prepared. He's a leader. He knows in that bullpen what that individual has that night. So if the game plan is this, wait a minute, that may not work tonight. We're going to have to readjust here. We're going to have to audible to something else. And I think he does an amazing job at getting the best out of every single guy in the rotation in the staff.
Talk about Lindor, because you're familiar. Obviously, you've watched him enough, competed against him. So I mean, A, getting him out of the division, and B,
thank you. Yes, I mean, first of all,
shortstop. So you know, is that the guy from New York?
Getting him out of the division is extremely helpful. Thank you. No, I couldn't say enough things about him. I appreciate the way he plays the game, how much joy he has in playing the game, how much fun he has in playing the game. And, you know, seeing him from the other side, you appreciate, you respect individuals that compete like that and have fun. You know, you didn't like him beating you. You didn't like him going out and getting hits against you, robbing singles and turning double plays against you. But I at the end of the day, you sit back and you respect it so much. You respect that. It's like he reminds me of a little leaguer still going out and playing the game.
That's awesome.
At extremely high level. I mean, he's extremely fun to watch. He's made for that city. You know, that fan base, the Met fan base will just embrace him like their own son, and he'll do the same.
It's the kind of trade that Mets fans have been drawing up for 30 years or so. Like we talk about all the time, pretty much since probably Piazza, you know, getting that level star that's going to come in and really, you know, have an impact, I think, on the city and on the fan base in that way.
When he makes everyone.
Yeah. Right.
That presence is tough to find.
Right.
And I've never been in a room with him. And that's and like just having conversations with him and watching him go about it and how he leads on the field, it's tough to find. And
so a lot of that, I think, is because of the change in ownership, bringing in, obviously, Steve Cohen takes over, and he brings in Sandy Alderson, who I think gets a bit of a bum rap about being this small ball, money ball guy. He likes entertaining players. This is a guy who traded for Ricky Henderson twice and, you know, had Canseco and McGuire back in the day. Like, he likes those players. He just wants to make sure it's a good acquisition, a good signing, et cetera. And so, you know, they come in, they make that move. What is the perception being with another team, like around the game when the Mets shake it up, right? They bring a new owner takes over, who's going to make a difference, who probably is going to go for it. I mean, I'm sure everybody saw that opening press conference, which gave me goosebumps as a Mets fan. You know, what does that say around the league? What do you see as somebody who played for the Mets, but then also is, you know, not with them now, but still keeps track and sees what's going on, and you're in the game? I mean, what does that say to baseball?
I mean, you see a culture that is trying to be created in a positive way. You know, being a fan of the game, you sit back and you try to observe everything, and from a distance, trying to see what each club is doing and how they try to better themselves to put the organization and the city in a better position to be successful. And the moves they've made. I believe McCann was the first one.
Right.
And I thought in that moment, I tried to, I understood what they were trying to do, from being with Mac for 2 years, understanding, how you're trying to try to build a winning atmosphere and a culture, and you're bringing in quality people, and they're two quality people, and plus the other moves they've made, and as far as looking at the other side, the culture that we've created also on the South Side, and the talent that we have and continue to build on to put us in position to be successful. It seems like the same scenario.
We're going to be wrapping up soon, but you played for the Cardinals, and you just talked about culture. Do you see a way the Mets could have a Mets way, just based on, if you can speak to that? Obviously, you're with an organization, but I mean, do you see, coming together, maybe what they would want to be?
You were frozen. I didn't hear it.
Oh, I was just saying, based on the acquisitions they made, and you were talking about McCann. I mean, do you see sort of a culture that maybe they're trying to put together?
Yes, one that is positive, sustainable for a long period of time.
Cool.
And this is the foundation of it. Now, you bring in Mac for so many years, and then Lindor for so many years, and to go along with the culture that was already there, and everybody being on the same page for one common goal, and that's the win. And that's the culture we have tried to create in Chicago, and that we're on the right path to continue doing, and see the end of the goal, one that's sustainable for a long period of time.
You're in a two-team city,
Yes.
and then you played for the Mets, who had the Yankees. But is that really a rivalry? Do you guys feel that, or is it just a fan base?
No, you feel it. You feel the energy. You see the shirts walking around town. You see the billboards, and I believe it's the same type of rivalry and energy wise, within a city. And we're creating that. We're trying to create an environment to bring positivity to the South Side and make it a winning town, the winning side of the town for a long period to come. Something that we've been building on for extended period of time.
So here's a question here from Brian Roberts. He was talking about the home run off Randy Johnson at Shea, and Shea rockin', which, if you've ever, you'd think the place was going to fall down. Been there many times for things like that. He wonders if you remember that, hitting against him in that moment.
Yes, that was, that's when I just came up from AAA, and I played a couple games before that, and that day I remember it was a Sunday. It was a getaway day. It was raining, and I remember that Randy was trying to get the game canceled because he liked the pitch in a controlled environment. And I think that day I finally felt like a Met, where I was embraced. But also my productivity to be able to help us win. I felt like I was welcomed in fully as a Met, and one day I'll never forget. I won't.
Before we let you go, what is the Mets jersey? Is that your jersey behind it? Because it's an '86.
Yeah, it's a throwback jersey.
Awesome. That's so great.
Yes.
So why that one specifically, not one of like, the black jersey or whatever?
I have all of them.
Okay.
I have all of them.
Because I mean, that's my favorite. Obviously, as a Mets fan who grew up in the '80s, that's
I love the black jersey.
you do.
Yes.
You want to see him bring it back? And it's a controversy among Mets fans.
I love the black jerseys.
Yeah.
I do.
I just think it's an era thing. There's nothing wrong with, you go that to me. I see those jerseys. I think of you guys. And
Yeah.
it's just an era. So why not? What's the big deal?
I think it was the point. I think it was okay, we're winning today.
Right.
We're winning. It was a statement. It was a statement jersey.
I'm just trying to figure out if there's any other questions coming in. So what? Just talk quick about the White Sox. I mean, what's going on? What's next? What do you?
No, we're excited. We're excited to get going.
Yeah.
No, we had a very productive season last year that fell short of what we tried to get to, and we're going to continue to build on that moving forward. And we're extremely excited to get going. We brought in some quality pitchers that are going to help, bullpen wise, rotation wise, adding to an already talented ball club that we had. And the beautiful thing about it is to see the growth of every single individual during this journey, from the beginning.
Right.
To see the growth of Tim Anderson and Abreu and Mancada and Giolito, just to see the continued growth and the fact now that they're not worrying about surviving and worrying about their own individual, getting their own individual self on pace. It's about winning now. It's about winning. And if you play the game to win, all the individual numbers will always take care of themselves. And I think that's where we're at now. And it's an amazing environment that we have, our young guys and our core guys, and then the individuals we have brought in as an organization.
Maybe we'll get a Mets White Sox World Series, and we'll get you in the Citi Field, and that would be pretty exciting. It'd be pretty fun, wouldn't it?
That'd be amazing.
I know they want to wrap up, so they wanted me to ask you about Foley's. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
About going there and my guess, but you go.
No, Sean's an extremely amazing person, so giving person, one that's gave back to the game, the city, and the community. Everybody he comes in contact with, he makes better and brightens their day. And I've known Sean for 20 years now, and it's disappointing to see it being shut down because there's so many memories and that were established in that environment, so many friendships, and it was always a place to go to talk baseball, to talk about life, and it was a gift that always gave, every season, football season, hockey season, basketball season, each individual nights that he'd have St. Louis Blues nights, and just the environment that was created there, and one thing that meant so much to me, and just another telling of how amazing David is. I brought David there after his first game, and we went in the back, we ate, and that's awesome. After his last game, he sent me photos of him there, and it's like he said, Joe, I just want to show you where it started. It's going to end. That's tremendous. It meant a lot to me.
But see, that gets back to
and that's the type of individual Sean is.
Right. That gets back to the first question I asked, which is just the memories and legacy and how you're remembered and all that kind of stuff is always what's most important. The rest of it's just concrete and walls and things, and he's remembered all those. It's just that's what's important. And like I said to you earlier, you're remembered, as being that Joe McEwing player. and you always will be. And we're all appreciative of that, of you too.
Thank
as
you
well.
so much. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Joe, thank you. You don't know how much we appreciate this.
No, thanks for having me.
I know all the fans in the comments are loving it. Thank you so much. Good luck with this upcoming season. Matt, thank you so much.
Matt, thank you.
I'm going to let you guys go. I don't want to hold up any more of your time. Again, thank you again, Joe. Thank you, Matt. I'm going to let you guys go.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks.